In 2010, Kobe Bryant won his fifth and last championship against the Boston Celtics. K2-B4 makes her debut on February 18, 2011 in the episode The Citadel of the Star Wars The Clone Wars. Lola Sayu was a sulfurous cracked planet that was home to the Citadel, a prison engineered to hold Jedi during the Clone Wars. During 522 BBY, the Jedi Order built the Citadel somewhere on Lola Sayu in order to imprison rogue Jedi. Lola Sayu is a purple and gold planet. Lola Sayu was conquered by the Confederacy of Independent Systems early in the Clone Wars, placing the Citadel under Separatist control. It is a planet in the Outer Rim territories with a volcanic terrain controlled by the Separatists. The volcanic planet of Lola Sayu appeared a beautiful glowing purple from orbit and was the site of an ancient Jedi prison known as the Citadel. Although the Republic had control of the planet for a time, it switched hands early on during the Clone War conflict, and the Separatists used the planet as a prisoner of war camp under the control of Osi Sobek. The Citadel was intended as a flawless contingency for an unthinkable problem. The Stark prison was built to hold Jedi, should any in the Order even turn against the Republic. Constructed 500 years before the Clone Wars, it fell to Separatist control when the planet Lola Sayu was conquered by the Confederacy early in that conflict. The Separatists populated the prison with battle droids and used it to hold Republic captives. It is an imposing, heavily armored fortress seated atop a monolithic butte. K2-B4 was a T-Series tactical droid who served the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the Clone Wars. She has feminine programming and is voiced by Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano. She is a commander from the planet Bactoid Prime. She also bore the logo of the Citadel on her body. Here is the final draft of K2-B4. You can see the Citadel logo on her back and front. Note, this is a reuse of the tactical droid. The droid has been painted to match the colors of the Lola Sayu environment, and the Citadel logo has been added to the front and rear. And this is dated 1/29/10. Kobe won his championship in mid to late 2010, and then the droid was featured in February of 2011. So it's a bit of coincidence because this droid was actually created for the planet and the Citadel. But being as Kobe won the championship, they gave him a nod, named her K2-B4 in honor of Kobe, and she appeared in 3 episodes of The Clone Wars Season 3. It's unclear why she is a feminine droid, but it is what it is. They made her a feminine droid. While it is definitely a nod to Kobe Bryant winning his championship, this droid wasn't created specifically for Kobe Bryant. It was created going off of the colors of the Citadel and Lola Sayu, but it just happened to coincide with Kobe winning his championship with the purple and gold colors already being there. They called her K2-B4. The concept, the droid, is based off of the planet and the story that was established, but the name is a nod to Kobe Bryant, and of course the colors happen to work out. It's not that the droid was made purple and gold specifically for Kobe, but the name K2-B4 is literally for Kobe. KB, Kobe Bryant, 24, number 24. Here's some highlights of K2-B4 in the Clone Wars.
Citadel Command has contacted us.
This is Central Command. Please identify yourself.
This is Shuttle 81572, requesting access to Citadel Prison.
Make sure every part of that ship is scanned for life forms.
Yes, Commander. What is your cargo?
What is our cargo? Supplies and frozen rations.
Do not deviate from your current course until we have confirmed your cargo.
They're scanning us for life forms.
The shuttle has no life forms, Commander. Scan complete. You may proceed.
Where are my special units?
They are here, sir. Count Dooku insists that you speak with him, Commander.
Well, let's not keep him waiting.
He's already waiting, sir.
Don't ever surprise me with the transmission from Count Dooku. I need time to prepare.
Yes, Commander. Your arrival is long overdue. Where have you been? Even so, the odds are 3 to 1 that you are a traitor. We will take you to interrogation below. We have captured the shuttle that infiltrated our defenses. Sir, we have located the other group, and our droids are closing in on them. Based on their recent position, we believe they're traveling along this cave system. Sir, Count Dooku commands you to contact him immediately. Commander, the additional reinforcements have arrived.
Tighten your grip, K2-B4. The Republic will almost certainly attempt a second mission to infiltrate our defenses and rescue the prisoners.
As cool as the Clone Wars cartoons are, they have several continuity issues. In the same Season 3 episode, The Citadel, as the K2-B4, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Anakin freeze themselves in carbonite with some clones to slip into the Citadel undetected. Carbon freezing is in The Empire Strikes Back, which is several years after the Clone Wars. It's not to say that the technology didn't exist in the Clone Wars, but we don't know that it did. They take the risk of getting frozen when an Empire has clearly stated that it's a very dangerous process and that Solo may even die. In the Clone Wars, they get released from the carbonite by R2. They're a little bit stiff and sore, but they can see just fine, and within seconds, within a minute, they're all fine. The clones are a little more shooken up, but they're fine too. Within a few minutes, they go on about their business and infiltrate the Citadel.
I've never been carbon frozen before, General. That's the first time for us, too.
This is your idea. Carbon freezing?
Hey, you wanted to shield us from the lifeform scanners. You sure this thing is safe? I don't want to end up a wall decoration.
Try to relax. We'll be unfrozen as soon as we arrive.
Hey, Snips.
Hey, Master.
I must have carbon sickness because I could swear that's Ahsoka.
Your eyes are fine. It's Ahsoka's hearing that needs help.
Sure, Jedi would be a little more resilient. You could even argue Anakin, the chosen one. Obi-Wan is Obi-Wan. But for 3 Jedi to take that risk and get out of carbonite and just be fine within a minute or so and continue on with their mission is totally retconning The Empire Strikes Back. As far as we know, that technology didn't even exist. If Filoni and Lucasfilm want to introduce it in the Clone Wars, that again is okay. But when you have later technology, several years later, that is running the risk of killing a human, and he has hibernation sickness for a good amount of time after coming out. Disney retconning things from the past, from the original movies, because you should not first take the risk of being frozen in carbonite, but more importantly, you're going to have, if nothing else, carbonite sickness, even if the technology is improved. Empire is several years after the Clone Wars. So if in Empire the technology is not improved on a planet that is a mining planet and they're carbon freezing stuff all the time, probably daily, hourly, to move shipments of ore, yet in the Clone Wars they have a huge setup with several chambers and they're taking the risk of carbon freezing humans. Huge plot hole, huge inconsistency in the canon of Star Wars. And it's not even EU, it's literally the films.
Lord Vader, we only use this facility for carbon freezing. You put him in there, it might kill him.
I do not want the Emperor's prize damaged. We will test it on Captain Solo.
What's going on, buddy? You're being put into carbon freeze.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
The Empire will compensate you if he dies. Put him in.
Oh, they've encased him in carbonite. He should be quite well protected. If he survived the freezing process, that is.
Just relax for a moment. You're free of the carbonite. You have hibernation sickness.
I can't see.
Your eyesight will return in time.
Chewie, is that you? Chewie! I can't see, pal.
So after Han is freed from the carbonite, he gets put in a cell and reunited with Chewie. Shortly after, Luke shows up at Jabba's palace. Then Luke confronts Jabba, so some time passes from the moment Han is released to the Sarlacc pit battle. And in the Sarlacc pit battle, he is still very much blind. At best, he says, well, instead of dark, I see light now. When Han is released from the carbonite, he's all sweaty and a mess. He can't see at all. He's not necessarily physically disabled, although he's shaky. He immediately falls to the ground. So you can see there's serious effect. Some might argue, well, but he was frozen for X amount of time, whereas in the Clone Wars, it was just a short trip and they get unfrozen. It doesn't matter. Once you're frozen in carbonite, you're like at moment zero. You're completely frozen. So if I unfreeze you 5 minutes later or 50 years later, it doesn't matter. You're in suspended animation. Your body functions are frozen. So it's not going to make an effect as far as a hibernation sickness. On the contrary, you would be in a better state because you're frozen. So if you came out 50 years later, you would look like you did 50 years before. Regardless of the amount of time frozen in the carbonite, you're going to have carbonite sickness. So after he's released from the carbonite, Han is reunited with Chewie in a cell in Jabba's palace. Then Luke shows up, infiltrates Jabba's palace, goes through the whole conversation, fights the Rancor. A bunch of time passes before they even go to the skiff and the Sarlacc pit. Then during the Sarlacc pit battle, Han is still blind. He only improves in that he can see, instead of just dark, he can see light. Han is still blind and still a bit shaky. Although he's in pretty good physical condition during the Sarlacc pit battle, he's, if nothing else, blind. Whereas in the Clone Wars, they just get unfrozen and it's like, oh well, shake it off. All good, we're good to go.
His High Exaltedness, the great Jabba the Hutt, has decreed that you are to be terminated immediately.
Good, I hate long waits.
As soon as Jabba says you're going to be executed immediately in the Sarlacc pit, everyone starts going up the stairs and they start heading out. While it could have been some time that passed, it does appear that they immediately are going to go to the skiff and out to the Sarlacc pit. But you still have to figure, all the crew, firing up the ship, loading the prisoners, getting everything in place, R2 set up to serve drinks, and then Jabba himself slithering around. I can't imagine it's easy to get him from the bottom of his palace, where there's stairs, up into the surface, and then onto the skiff. That's all going to take time. Granted, he probably has a lift and there's some solution, but it's going to take a bit of time. At least, let's say at least a few hours from the time that Jabba says you're going to get executed to them getting all set up in the skiff, then going out to the Sarlacc pit. We can say it's at least a few hours, an hour minimum. So you're going from Han being unfrozen, spending some time in a cell, Luke showing up, Sarlacc battle, talking smack with Jabba, then them being sentenced, then loading up the skiffs to go out to the pit, then travel time to the Sarlacc pit, and then the whole episode of the Sarlacc pit. And Han is still very notably blind.
My eyes are getting better. Instead of a big dark blur, I see a big light blur.
Chewie, give me the gun! Don't move, Lando! Oh, wait, I thought you were flying! It's all right, I can see a lot better. Don't move! A little higher! Just a little higher!
Meet you back at the fleet.
Hurry. The Alliance should be assembled by now.
I will.
Hey, Luke, thanks. Thanks for coming after me. Now I owe you one.
After the entire Sarlacc pit battle, they show the Falcon and Luke's X-Wing flying away from Tatooine. We don't know how much time has passed, but again, you can assume at least an hour, maybe a few hours from when they take the skiff back, get themselves together, get dressed up in clean clothes, fire up the ships, wherever the Falcon is at that moment in some port. They had to go get the Falcon released. By the time they take off out of Tatooine, it's fair to say at least an hour, but it might be a few hours. The point here is, from the moment that Han is released from the carbonite, you have him totally shaken and sick. He gets put in a cell. They have to wait for Luke to come. After Luke's battle with the Rancor, then they bring in Han. Then it takes time to go from them being sentenced to execution in the Sarlacc to getting loaded up in the skiffs. Then they have to travel to the Sarlacc pit. Then they go through the whole Sarlacc battle. Then they pick up the droids. Then they go back to the Falcon and the X-Wing, get all geared up, fire up the ships, and fly out of Tatooine. So you're talking about minimum of a few hours passing here, if not overnight or a day. While it's never been clear as to how much time passes there, you can honestly say several hours pass. Even if it were only an hour, there's time that your eyes need to adjust. In the Clone Wars, they literally get unfrozen and can see instantly. Disney, again, retconning things. Disney has the liberty to retcon their own nonsense, their sequel trilogy and their Resistance and Rebels, but Disney does not have the liberty of going back to episode 1 through 6 and now retconning what was happening with technology and physical state of characters. Lastly, you hear Han say, "Thanks kid, now I owe you one," as they're both flying away. But you don't physically see Han piloting the Falcon. So while we do assume that at this point, okay, he's got his bearings back, he can see, he's flying, we presume that technically Chewie could be flying the Falcon while Han is still recovering. Han could be in the back laying down with Leia nursing him. So we don't even know for sure that he can see until, granted, much later when he's back to normal. If nothing else, several hours go by, whereas in the Clone Wars, instantaneously they are freed from the carbonite and they experience no sickness. That does not fall into continuity. Disney did away with the EU because they said that it causes continuity issues. Yet Disney is constantly causing their own continuity issues within their own creations and within the original 6 movies. While we can assume that Han is in pretty good shape by the time they leave Tatooine, we don't literally see him in sound health and in full vision until much later when they start discussing the shield generator on Endor and forming an attack plan for the second Death Star.
Well, look at you, a general, huh? Someone must have told him about my little maneuver at the Battle of Tanev. Well, don't look at me, pal. I just said you were a fair pilot. I didn't know they were looking for somebody to lead this crazy attack.
We all can assume Han was back to normal much sooner. But for what it's worth, we don't see him in normal state till much later after Tatooine on January 27th, StarWars.com. Well, one thing we do know is that among the 14,000 ships that arrived with Lando Calrissian over Exegol in Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, are the Fireball, Jarek Yeager's Racer, and Tora Doza's ship, says Pablo Hidalgo of the Lucasfilm Story Group. The ILM team created photoreal versions of these vessels to populate the movie's space battle, which we're excited to reveal here. Also, keep your eyes peeled for a number of Mining Guild freighters from Star Wars Resistance in the epic clash. Disney again, retconning themselves. In The Last Jedi, they put out a call for help. Not one ship shows up. Not one. Now, a year later, 14,000 ships show up. It's just not realistic. Even if only 3 ships showed up in The Last Jedi. But you're going from 0, anybody even answering, to now a whole armada of 14,000 ships. Now let's put that in perspective. Emperor Palpatine on Exegol has approximately 1,000 Star Destroyers. He has all the Sith and decades of building this army of Star Destroyers with Death Star technology lasers on the bellies of these ships. Millions of troops. Each one of those Star Destroyers has 40,000-ish troops. Not to mention there are other Star Destroyers on other planets. There's one by Cloud City, Bespin. There's one by the forest moon of Endor, and we can presume that there's in other places as well. So 1,000 ships, an emperor who has all the power of the Sith and unlimited resources, and the Empire and the First Order, etc., etc. And yet the ragtag rebels, who a year before couldn't muster up one ship, now have 14,000 ships that arrive at Exegol. I don't know what these guys do when they write these stories, but they literally don't pay attention to their own stories. They don't even put 2 and 2 together. They're so just distracted or don't care. I don't know what's going on, but it's just funny because they made a point to say that there was continuity issues, and over and over and over again, Disney is creating new continuity issues with their own stuff. I just don't get what the Lucasfilm Story Group does when they get together, because they certainly aren't paying attention to their own stories. Nor do the comics fall in line. There's discrepancies. The books have discrepancies. The cartoons with the movies have discrepancies. Every part of Disney's Star Wars has discrepancies. The old EU does have some continuity issues, although for the most part it was pretty good. But you're talking about 35 years of history by various authors, and the EU was a little bit loose. It was people that were celebrated authors that were allowed to make up their own stories and create the EU, plus games and comics and other media. Whereas you now have Disney that has owned the franchise for 8 years and has stated publicly that they're decanonizing everything so that they can keep everything straight with continuity. In a much shorter time, with a focus group of getting all the story together, all the canon in order, they are making tons of mistakes. Whereas the old Star Wars was Lucas giving freedom to people to just create. You had certain parameters, but the authors could create their own stories, so they didn't have to be 100% on T in canon. The movies were what was canon. Whereas Disney has claimed that they've made what they choose to be canon because they want to keep it straight, and they can't keep it straight. You have 1,000 ships under the Emperor. The ragtag rebels came up with 14,000 ships. Not only is that breaking continuity, it is ridiculous, but it also goes to one of the biggest points. Disney does not understand Star Wars or Star Wars magic. One of the biggest aspects of Star Wars was the struggle and the unity and the fight of the rebels. That they had like 3 ships that were all broken and falling apart, held together with duct tape, with old scratched up droids, and just scrappy people and aliens, and a small band of brothers going up against the big brother. That's the point of Star Wars. Good against evil. Evil always has more power and resources. That's the point, is that good banding together, doing the right thing, can beat the biggest tyrant, the biggest problems. That's the point of Star Wars, was people pulling together, friendships, pulling together to beat evil. And Disney just doesn't get it. Disney thinks they just have to throw thousands of ships on the screen, and that's Star Wars. They're so clueless. I hope you guys enjoyed Disney's retconning. There's a lot of speculation of George Lucas taking over Star Wars again. I don't see that happening. The only way he's going to do it is if he has full control. Remember that he left because he's over it. He's retired. He's doing his museum. He's spending time with his kids and wife. If he wanted to do Star Wars, he would have done it. He's over it, unfortunately. It's his baby. He still loves it. But is he really going to want to come back after all this mess? Even if it's 90% control, you think he's going to want to come back and deal with Bob Iger and fix all this mess and have someone looking over his shoulder and trying to retcon what he's doing? I don't see it happening. Not at all. He loves Star Wars, but he's over it. He moved on. He wouldn't have sold it otherwise. Either way, the only way he's going to come back is if he has 100% control, and I don't see Disney doing that, because I'm pretty sure if George Lucas got 100% control, first thing he's going to do is recanonize everything back to the way it was, fix the timeline back to how it was, BBY, ABY, and sequel trilogy goes poof, because that just caused a whole freaking mess. I can't imagine that George Lucas is going to want to have anything to do with that stuff. He would have to retcon and basically evaporate the sequel trilogy, which Bob Iger is not going to like, and he would have to make the new films. So how would he even pull that off without everybody at Disney being a bunch of crybabies about it? I'll leave you with that for today. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the video. May the Force be with you.